Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, listeners who downloaded earlier versions of this podcast will not be automatically upgraded to the newer, longer battery life version of this show. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined by Mark Mitchell, as I always am. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the upgrade for Switch that you're not actually going to be able to get unless maybe you're going to GameStop and spending $75. And then come back on Thursday because we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Indie World Showcase. But Mark, in the meantime, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am sitting right in front of a fan.
Yes.
And when the fan, it's oscillating.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really painting a picture here. When the fan oscillates, you can hear a tiny bit of a squeak, and I like it a lot.
Oh.
Because it sounds like the sound effect used in Roller Coaster Tycoon when a roller coaster is going down the hill.
Oh, that's great.
And the people are, like, screaming.
Wait, so it sounds like a people scream to you?
It sounds like a people scream.
And it comforts you in this way.
You know, in, like, a fun, like, I'm at the fair type way.
In other fan-related news, Sarah and I recently discovered that we can put a box fan in the window in our bedroom. Our bedroom gets it's sort of warm. There's only like a small window in there. But if we put the box fan in the window and turn it on like an hour before bedtime, ooh, it cools everything right down.
You know, we're dangerously close.
What do you mean?
To getting to a air conditioner / fan portion of this show, plus maybe throwing in weather.
This is a good point. We're talking too much about temperature is what you're saying. How's your water? Good?
You know what's something that's really hot?
What's that? Sonic Forces is hot. You can borrow my copy of it for the Nintendo Switch. All you got to do is send us an email at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and I send it to you. And it stays with you for as long as you want it to. Then you send it back.
Now, while you're getting on that list,
yes,
you should also be sending us your Donkey Kong 3 high scores.
That's right. Because look, here's the thing. Our contest ends on Friday.
That's right. So we only have, after this, one more time.
Yeah, to berate you about having not sent in your scores yet. I believe Lizzie is still in the lead with like 250,000 points.
Feels unbeatable at this point, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
No, I want to see some scores that make... I mean, honestly, Lizzie's score kind of made me go, wow. But I want to see some scores that make me go, wow.
And you want us to go wow because you could get 2 pair of socks.
2 pair of Donkey Kong socks go to the person with the highest score. It's probably going to be Lizzie, but it is open for anyone. Email us, nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, or tweet at us at NinCartSociety. And we just need a little photograph of the screen so that we believe you. And also, Billy Mitchell,
not allowed.
Do not apply.
And don't try to get your friends to do it either. Billy Mitchell.
That's right.
Everybody else, sure.
Yeah. This is open to listeners of the podcast, but also people who don't listen. Anyone could submit to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do tell your friends, unless you're Billy Mitchell, in which case, Billy, thanks for listening, but we don't want your cheating friends playing along here. Last thing, please send us your Super Mario Maker 2 levels. We love them. We want to talk about Wolfaroo's level. He sent us a 3 boss fights.
That's right. 2, 3 bosses stand before you.
All right. Isn't that 2 princes?
Oh, yeah. It could be, but
okay, sure.
As we've discussed previously, my favorite form of parody song is one where I just replace like one or two words.
Right. So we will have the level code in the description of this episode, but it is a fairly straightforward affair. You fight 3 bosses, one at a time, except you kind of fight the Bowser the giant Bowser Jr. while an off-screen giant Bowser shoots fireballs at
you.
I
thought it was really cool the way that the level is interlocked. Mm-hmm. So you do kind of like get that extra bit of challenge from the stuff that's going on off screen. So it is straightforward, but I kind of feel like it's the best sort of Mario level where it's straightforward, but so you know what you need to do, but there's challenge in like executing it correctly.
Yeah, and I have played a lot of levels that, put you up against either many bosses or like one boss, and then like it just keeps like, there's some way that either it's too difficult or it's too easy. Either, they just like give you stars and you just like run through it, or you've got to hold on to your fire flower for dear life. And I feel like this had a nice kind of balance of those things.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Also, pro tip here, when you are fighting the first boss, don't freak out about the lava. It's okay. Worry about it in the second boss.
Yeah.
And then also wanted to bring attention to my buddy Pete sent us a level. It's called Free Solo. It is a vertical climb, and it's just a lot of fun.
1, 2, free solo.
All right.
Less enthusiastic about that one?
Yeah, I didn't like it as much.
Well, it shouldn't damper anyone's enthusiasm for this level.
No, the code for which will also be in the description of this episode. And yeah, it's just an auto-scrolling vertical level that's got some like fun, tricky jumps.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple where you have to like land on a platform and then like kind of like weave your way around some spikes, which does very much feel like. Did you see Free Solo?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So Free Solo is this documentary about a climber who seems to have a death wish, and climbs El Capitan, this big cliffside, and eventually does it with no ropes and all by himself. Free Solo. And this, it feels, there are moments in this where you're like, just like when you're watching that, except there's really no danger in Super Mario Maker of watching your friend fall to their death, like to their actual death.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real concern in the movie Free Solo.
One thing that also separates Free Solo from Mario Maker is Free Solo doesn't have Gusty Gardens.
That's
from Super Mario Galaxy.
Which this level is scored with the music from Mario Galaxy, which is maybe just the best music. Well, so that's good music. I wanted to bring this up, and you asked me a question because we were playing some Mario Maker before we started recording. The snow music in Super Mario Maker 2 that is was retroactively composed for the original Super Mario Brothers is so good that I just wanted to play a little bit of it now, and so we could talk about it. It's almost got like a DuckTales moon music quality to it. I think it's my favorite new track in the game.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'm assuming it's written by Koji Kondo because they've in the Mario Maker 2 Direct, they talked about how he had come back to write some new music for the game.
Yeah, and there are a couple of other ones, like the Sky theme is also new for Super Mario Brothers, but that feels more like just a remix of the original athletic theme. But this one feels genuinely new and very cool, and I like it a lot. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing. Fire Emblem Three Houses. I'm still playing it. I'm still loving it. Just got to the time jump.
Mm-hmm.
I won't explain the circumstances surrounding the time jump, but let me tell you, there's no part of Fire Emblem Three Houses that I don't enjoy. I think all of the systems feed into each other in the most effective way to get me emotionally. I teach my students at the school. They use those skills on the battlefield, and they form these relationships on the battlefield that then improve how they learn in the school, and on and on and on. And I feel genuine pride for these characters. I just really love Fire Emblem Three Houses. At this point.
Tell me this without spoilers: does the time jump remove any of that?
No. No, in fact, if anything, the time jump introduces a new dynamic that I found genuinely upsetting. That just revealed to me that I am attached to all these characters and their relationships, even with my students and with other students. So yeah, it's a 5-year jump, after which, first of all, this is something that everyone needs to know because it's extra incentive to make it to this time jump. Everyone, all the students, age up by 5 years. So everyone gets new faces and new hair. So all you got to do is play this game for 35 hours, maybe. And then you can see Raphael's great new hair.
And look, you might not be playing this game right now, and that doesn't sound like much of an incentive.
But
Believe me.
It is so, I can't, like.
It will be important to your life.
It will be so important. You will see all of their faces one by one and go, huh? What? Yes! And then, like, they will keep arriving, and you will be excited with the reveal of every new do and every glow up. Everyone looks great. Anyway, I'm still playing Fire Emblem Three Houses.
So I've been playing a little bit of Hollow Knight.
Very
thanks to listener Martin, who got the game for us, which is really cool.
Thank you, Martin.
So obviously Hollow Knight's been out for a while now, so everything I'm about to say is not an original observation, but this game reminds me so much of Dark Souls.
Oh.
Mechanically, even like aesthetically, in the way that the story is told, as so much as the story is very similar to like Dark Souls. So basically it's like a Metroidvania where as you are defeating enemies and things like that, you're getting this currency, and when you die, you lose all of this currency, but you can go back to where you died and retrieve it, and you get all of it back, and then you use the currency to like level up and to make it's not exactly Dark Souls, but because you can buy level ups that like do things for your map and like all that kind of stuff, but it is very reminiscent in a good way.
That sounds very Shovel Knight as well. When you die in Shovel Knight, like bags of treasure just like leap out of your body and then kind of float there, and hopefully you can make it back.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you didn't die, in some huge pit that like you'll never be able to get back to. But cool. I'm glad that you are enjoying it.
Yeah, I also feel like there's something very. It's a very well-made game. Like there's something very deliberate in the way that enemies are introduced to you, because they're all very. I don't know. Like similar is not exactly correct, but it's like the further you go, you're introduced to. Oh, this is very similar to the enemy I saw before, but now this one has long legs and can jump.
Cool.
Or, this is very similar to an enemy I saw before, but this one has like a shield or whatever. So my method of attack has to change a little bit. It also reminds me of Dark Souls in that you basically just have this huge open world at the beginning. And I was like running to one area, and I ran into this huge boss that killed me like immediately.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, nope, can't.
Nope, not ready for that one.
Shouldn't be going that way. The one thing that I am kind of finding a little frustrating about the game.
He hates it.
Is that I just don't know. I hate in games where I feel like I don't know where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah, sure.
Or I hate the feeling. Like it was one of the things that I really didn't like about Samus Returns. The Return of Samus remake. Or 3DS that came out a couple of years ago, is it feels very overwhelming to me to have this huge open world and then to be going to places and being like, I should remember where this place is, but I have no method of marking it at this point.
Yeah.
And I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
And, but what I've played of it so far overall, like super fun. I definitely want to keep digging into it.
Can I bore you for a second with a game that I've been playing that's like 2 years old?
Please.
Sarah and I picked Mario Kart 8 Deluxe back up because Mario Kart is just like a nice, it feels good to play, right? And we noticed that we didn't have all 3 stars in some of the mirror circuits. And we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's like buckle down and like work on these things. It's something that we can play together and then sort of like game it out a little bit. So like, if whoever gets first place in the first race, like that's the person that we're like pulling to get first in all of them, which means if you don't get first in the first race, then you are in this like awesome defensive position.
Yeah, you become a spoiler.
Yeah, so you're trying to like get behind the first place player and like grabbing useful items and then like dropping back occasionally to like take out someone who like slipped between you, or sometimes being like, here's a blue shell, I'm gonna speed ahead of you and like take the hit for you. It's a neat Like it's just such a neat way to have to play that game, to think of like, oh, how can I be an effective how can I play good defensive ball here? You know?
That sounds really fun.
It's been a super fun way to play it. We ended up getting all 3 stars in all the mirror courses, and now we have moved on to the 200cc. But the game is so different in 200cc that it doesn't even feel like Mario Kart anymore.
I find it unplayable. As in, like, I'm not skilled enough to do it.
It's borderline unplayable. You have to use the brake button. The brake button, Mark!
Wait, so mirror courses, are those at a set CC or?
Yeah, so they're at 150, but they feel the CPU seems a little bit smarter. And I don't know if that's just my mind like justifying why it took us so long to do it, or if it's real. And the 200cc, there not only is it super fast, but like the computer knows how to do it, which makes it all much harder. But I don't think it's technically 150 and mirror. I don't think one is faster than the other. I think they're basically the same. All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
All right, on today, August 20th, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution
How many
is released.
times is the word duel in that?
And also Rad is released on the Switch eShop.
Rad, which you'll remember as a game that we saw in the Nindy Direct back in March, I believe, when Mark was out of town.
That's right.
From that episode that we did with Mike Delaney.
And on August 22nd, Sega Ages has Space Harrier and Puyo Puyo.
Now, I'm a little bit excited about this Puyo Puyo because I have grown to like Puyo Puyo as part of Puyo Puyo Tetris. And I'm just curious to see what it was like before they ever even dreamed of slapping the Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine branding on it. So I think that'd be fun.
Cool.
There's also a game out on the 22nd called Lines Infinite, which will launch at $1.50. 50 cents cheaper than the $2 it normally is.
So you're getting 25% off.
Yeah, it looks like a mobile game. Don't buy it. All right, Mark, let's get out of the new releases. And now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, we're going to talk about who we would be in a heist movie. What are skills? What skills do we have that would make us good on a heist team?
Because you know how in heist movies, there's the wet work person.
Yes.
There's the getaway person.
Right.
There's the
tiny person who can fold themselves up into a box.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are these tropes. Do you have like an easy one? Like, do you have an answer for this? I guess is my question.
Oh yeah, of course. Obviously, I would be.
Of course.
Obviously, I would be like the handsome person that goes up to the bank teller, and like
sure, yeah.
Go at a bar or something and keeps them busy.
Okay,
with my charm, I'm the charmer.
So you're gonna like smoke screen. You're not like running a honeypot here. You're not gonna like seduce anyone.
I mean, I could if I had to. It depends on the heist.
All right, I don't know.
Look. I would clearly be multifaceted at this. I could honeypot someone if I needed to, or I could just smoke screen. It really just depends on what the rest of the crew, how big of a heist we're doing.
Right. Look, if we're talking like an Ocean's 13, yeah. Big heist. You're going to need probably a couple honeypots in that one. If we're sticking to like a strict Ocean's 8, I don't know.
Right, yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm just there to be charming, drop something on the floor, pretend I can't find it.
So there is always like a role for like a smoke screen that isn't seducing someone, right? Like someone that is a little bit more of like the...
What are you trying to say?
No, I'm not saying for you. I don't have an answer to this.
Oh, okay.
I would like to think that I could be a getaway driver.
Oh, uh-huh.
Like, take me out of Oceans, put me into the Italian Job, baby. I want to drive those little Mini Coopers all around and like up on the sides of things and like spinning them around real fast.
Which is, I feel like I'm learning something new about you because I think of you as a like cautious, conscientious driver.
Yeah, well, no.
Or is that part of your like ruse?
That's part of the ruse. Yes, that I will make everyone believe like, oh, Patrick's a very considerate, measured driver. But hey, I mean, first of all, if the cops are looking for you and you're driving safe, they're never even going to know it was you.
It's true if you don't really have much of a criminal record.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
like speeding tickets even.
Right. I haven't gotten a speeding ticket since I moved out to California, and that was like 8 years ago.
You're basically a saint at that point.
I used to get speeding tickets a lot when I lived in Wisconsin. I think it's just like open road everywhere, and I can't tell you the last time I saw an open road.
Yeah, the only time you can I feel like the only time you could really get a speeding ticket in LA is, especially if you're on the freeway.
Oh yeah,
is at like 4 a.m. Have you ever driven to LAX at 4 a.m. and like people are maniacs?
Yeah. I also over here on Riverside Drive near us, Sarah and I always say that the speed limit is as fast as you can go. Which sometimes does mean it says 35, but like you can go 50 if it's the middle of the night. Nothing will ever happen to you.
I think for me, the hardest part about being the handsome one of the group.
Yes. Please tell us what's so hard about being the handsome one of the group.
Well, look, you're at a bar. You're trying to smoke screen one person, and everybody else is like looking at you. It's like the hard part about being the handsome one is you have to be noticeable, but not too noticeable.
Sure. You want to draw attention, but not stand out.
Yes.
Do you think... So I couldn't. Here are roles that we could not fulfill.
Yeah,
I couldn't be the tech guy.
I mean, it depended. Like, if I needed to restart a router, I could do that.
Oh, okay. I mean, we could all do that. We could all unplug something and
all
plug it back
do
in.
That.
You and I could both do that.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. We wouldn't be the tech people. I wouldn't be.
I don't want a gun.
I'm not the strong man.
Right. How flexible are you?
Okay. I think I am more flexible than most people my age, but not flexible enough to be useful in a heist situation.
I could be the pretend Mark, right? Like the other person that like goes in. Not saying pretend you,
but that might come in handy as well.
That
actually,
might. I could because we're about the same height,
right? Yeah,
similar build,
similar builds.
We got to pull off a heist, Mark.
It'd either be a heist or like a Sweet Valley High type thing.
Well, I guess we'll never know. We were accompanied today by pianist Anne Beckenhorst. And this is the first time we've ever used this recording on this show.
Which is a miracle.
Yeah, because we've done this segment, I don't know how many times. Like 100? All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
All right, first things first.
Mm-hmm.
The Nintendo Indie World Showcase from yesterday morning revealed some new titles, which we're going to talk about on Thursday.
Yep, that's all we're talking about on Thursday.
In other news, Nintendo has filed a new patent for what appears to be a wireless SNES controller.
Oh my goodness.
So this is very exciting.
Tell me why.
Because you might recall that there are NES controllers that are wireless that dock into your Switch.
Yes.
And can be charged that way. That Nintendo released as I think they're still available as well. They weren't like limited edition, where if you sign up for a Nintendo Switch Online account, you can purchase them.
Yeah, I was gonna say and spend $60.
Right. Yeah, which we definitely did the moment we could.
Yeah.
Mine are still in their boxes.
Really?
Yeah, I've never taken it out. But again, like we talked about last week, I'm a Pro Control. Or no,
not even Pro.
I'm a Joy-Con grip.
That's right,
man, through and through. So, does this mean we should expect Super Nintendo games on Switch in the future?
Well, so possibly. One of the things to note here is that we get a look at the serial number that would be associated with these Super Nintendo controllers, and it follows the same like numbering convention that the NES controllers do. So it is likely that what we're looking at here are Super Nintendo controllers that are intended for use with the Switch. I don't know why else those would be coming out other than to support a Super NES Nintendo Switch Online.
Also, way back at the beginning of the year, probably like February or so, people started data mining
Yes.
evidence of Switch games being in updates of the NES Nintendo Switch Online.
Super Nintendo games.
Super Nintendo games were mentioned
Yes.
in updates for the
Yes.
NES Nintendo Switch Online. That's correct.
Yeah.
And those like mentions of those were eventually removed. But I mean, yeah, it feels inevitable to me that this is happening. Maybe in September we'll get a reveal, which crazy
Yeah.
that it's only been 1 year since Nintendo Switch Online
Yes.
launched.
Of note, September 18th, 2018 was when the NES Switch Online was first launched.
And almost immediately, we were all like, where are the SNES games?
Yes. So it has been only 1 year. And I know it does feel like we've been saying it forever. Where's the Super Nintendo games? Where are the Super Nintendo games? It's been a year. A year is like it's no time.
Yeah. Which is just really funny to me.
Yeah, it's very funny to me as well.
Because it feels like we've been waiting forever.
Yeah, I mean, I think since the moment we knew there were going to be NES games on the Switch, we were like, okay, cool, when are the Super Nintendo games coming?
Yeah.
It's just the way video game fans function, ourselves included. So okay, the NES Switch Online launched with 20 games. How many Super Nintendo games? Well, let's just assume that we are going to get new Super Nintendo games and that it'll come in like September or October. How many games do you think it'll launch with?
I'm going to say 10.
10? You think they're going to do half as much? So if we look at the NES Classic, that thing has 30 games on it, and the Super NES Classic has 21 or 22.
I think isn't it 24? Well, yeah, it's something like that.
I think it's 21 and Star Fox 2.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you think maybe half as many?
Yeah, I think so. I think, just like we saw with the SNES Classic Edition, the games are so much more vast.
Yes, so much bigger.
And I'm assuming that they're going to want to continue to do the like online portion of it where you can do like asynchronous co-op or pick up where your friend left off and stuff like that. So I think that also just makes it's the task of doing that is much bigger with like an SNES game than it would be for like Donkey Kong 3 or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think this means we will not see any more NES games? You think once they start putting Super NES games that then just effectively cancels the NES version?
Yeah, because I just don't think that they have the like capacity to juggle both. And I don't really know that for me personally that I would want them to continue to do NES games.
Yeah.
For the most part, I can't think of anything for me that's missing on the
Star
NES
Tropics
Switch
2.
Online that I really... Yeah, that would actually be cool.
Yeah.
If, like, they were just like, here's Star Tropics 2, and we'll
Castlevania 3.
We'll do, like, Little Samson.
Yeah.
Right? Some difficult game that... Or game that's difficult to get now.
Yeah.
That most people never played, but it has a good reputation. I think that specific example would be really hard to do because I'm sure the rights are very complicated at this point.
Sure, but I mean and like Little Nemo would be super cool to see on there. Some of the like Adventure Island games would be fun. So like I think there are still games that they could release on the NES Switch Online. I'm sort of the thought that once you start doing Super Nintendo games, that like just focus on that. Like whatever else you were going to bring over, nobody cares. Get Super Metroid out on this thing and like let's call it a day.
Right. Totally. The newer model of the Nintendo Switch has started to appear on store shelves.
Should we talk a little bit about what is the difference there?
Yeah, sure.
So it's not much, right? There's a new chipset in there that increases battery efficiency. Like the process, it's the same battery. It's just will last like twice as long now as it was before, but everything else is the same.
Right. And, some people have done comparison videos about like loadings times and things like
that.
Oh,
yeah.
And they found that, maybe it improves performance in that way, but it's not like you're going to be running things in 4K.
This is not your 8K HDR Switch. That's not what it is.
So the new model has improved processing capabilities, like Patrick mentioned, and with that largely results in improved battery life. the packaging for the new version is a mostly red box. It looks different from the old packaging.
Yes.
But nothing like is explicitly labeled as being new or anything like that.
Right. Well, and it's important to remember that this is not like Switch 2.0 or new Switch or anything like that. This is just replacing Switch. Switch is now this thing.
Yeah.
So it's, if you're like looking to buy one, you just have to like keep an eye out for a mostly red box. And if you're going to someplace like GameStop or somewhere that knows games, like, you know, they'll probably know what you're talking about. But like if you go to Walmart or something, it might be a little bit dicier. You might be on your own.
So if you do buy one, you can know for sure that you got the new model by checking the serial number.
Yes.
So the original run of Switches, the serial numbers start with XAW. And new Switches, they begin with XKW.
Right. So it's the difference between the second letter. In the old one is A for ancient, and the new one is K
for
killer.
New.
Oh, for new. KNU, new. Umlauts over it.
There was a rumor floating around the internet last week, courtesy of Reddit.
Thank you, Reddit.
Although I did see it get picked up on the Virgin stuff as well.
Yeah, I saw it picked up a lot of places.
That Nintendo itself was instituting a policy where anyone who purchased an old Switch after July 17th, if they wanted the new model, could like send it in to them if they paid shipping, and Nintendo would ship them back out a new model. But apparently this is not true.
False, some would say.
So I don't know exactly what happened here, because Polygon did a piece on it.
Yeah.
And they apparently just called the customer service and was asking like Nintendo support, and those people said yes. And then eventually Nintendo of America released a statement to The Verge that said, "We do not have a Switch exchange program, period."
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So maybe it was something that happened for, you know, like a couple of reps.
Yeah.
We're just like, sure, yeah, that makes sense to me.
I mean,
you're within the return period.
Maybe that's it. And, you know, it is possible that, like, if you call Nintendo support and make enough of a stink about something, that, like, they'll acquiesce. But, like, it is not stated policy. It is not publicized policy. So we just don't count on it, I guess is my point.
GameStop is running a trade-in deal where you can turn in your old Switch model for $225 credit towards a new Switch model. So you'd basically just be paying a $25 difference.
Yeah. Or no, that's a $75 difference. It's the $25. That's $25 more dollars you get if you're trading in towards the new Switch specifically.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So they are valuing your old Switch at $25 more.
Only if you are applying it to purchasing the new Switch.
I see.
Otherwise, it is worth $200 flat.
I don't know if that news piece ended up being very helpful, only because it was so confused in the way that I presented it.
Here's the thing. I think it's confusing. And also, if you're buying the new Switch with your old Switch, don't you have a bunch of stuff on your old Switch you want to transfer over to the new Switch? And how are you going to...
But that's always the difficulty, right? Like when you bought a new 3DS after having an old 3DS.
See, that's much
always
easier.
Like the question
because you can put everything onto an SD card,
mm-hmm.
and you cannot put save data onto an SD card.
That's right.
On the Switch, you can upload most of it to the cloud with Switch Online, but there are some games that you cannot, like Splatoon 2 and others that I cannot think of right now.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Pokemon Let's Go, for
that.
example. Yeah, I mean, you can do a system transfer, but you need to have both of them there. So I don't know what the solution is for that.
Well, if you find a way to figure that out, you have until September 15th.
That's right.
Hey, let's have some fun with July's NPD sales numbers.
Hey, Mark, I love fun.
All right, so NPD every month releases general sales information for video games in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we know about July. Top 6 of the top 10 games from July are Nintendo games.
Crazy. Insanity. It's a lot of games on this list.
So the top 10 were Madden NFL 2020,
mm-hmm.
Fire Emblem 3 Houses,
coming in at number 2,
Super Mario Maker 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, a really good showing
mm-hmm.
for a game that's exclusive to Switch and kind of like overshadowed by the other 2 releases, I'd say.
Yeah, they're 2, 3, and 4 for the month, which is awesome.
Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mortal Kombat 11, which is the best-selling game of the year to date, and it has a Switch version, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and that's the top 10.
And that's the top 10. And again, I should note that I am still playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I guess another thing to consider here is that since Nintendo does not report digital sales, this is all based on physical sales of these games.
Right.
Of just the Nintendo games. Everyone else is counting digital in their sales as well. And Nintendo's still ranking 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 7th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Also, we learned that Breath of the Wild is now the best selling Zelda game of all time
in the U.S.
In the U.S.
Yeah. So the numbers go like this. Breath of the Wild is at number 1. Number 2 is Twilight Princess. Number 3 is Ocarina of Time. Number 4 is Majora's Mask. And number 5 is Link's crossbow training. That was a unit mover.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, I think... do you think that this cross-generation thing... Because obviously Twilight Princess benefited from launching at the beginning of the Wii's life.
Yeah.
Right? And the Wii sold so many copies or so many systems that, Twilight Princess was able to benefit from that over its entire lifespan.
Yeah, totally.
Breath of the Wild, kind of a really similar thing.
Yes, because it launched with the system that was popular. So a lot of people were buying the system and needed something to play on it. But I feel like Breath of the Wild was also a system seller. Like, I think a lot of the reason that people picked up Switches was because of Zelda. And I don't think that was necessarily the case for the Wii.
I think that's true, especially because like Breath of the Wild, so much of the discussion around it was how it was starting a new era for Zelda and how it's also kind of, it's an open world game, which general audiences really are into nowadays.
I mean, it's worth noting that Grand Theft Auto 5 is still on the list of top 10 selling games for July of this year. So it should be noted here are some things to note. Even if Breath of the Wild on Wii U was taken out of the count, it would still make it the number 1. And then the other thing to note is that Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D are technically counted as different games, so the sales of those 3DS remakes do not factor in to the ranking here. It also makes me wonder, Twilight Princess, I assume that the HD remake is not part of this tally, and ditto Wind Waker, that it doesn't appear on this list, but maybe that is partially because the HD remake is not part of this as well. It does make me wonder if we're counting both the Wii and GameCube versions of Twilight Princess.
I would assume so.
I would assume so too,
since that's what they're doing for Breath of the Wild.
But you could take the Wii U Breath of the Wild out, and it would still be number 1.
Yeah, and we don't know if that's true for Twilight Princess necessarily.
That's right.
Just again to dwell on how crazy it is, the Link's crossbow training.
Yeah.
Is in the top 5.
Look, more people have played Link's crossbow training than have played A Link to the Past. That's just a truth you have to live with. I'm sorry.
Switch was also the best-selling hardware in July and remains the best-selling hardware of 2019 so far. Switch was actually the only major platform that saw gains over their sales from this point last year.
So, good for Switch.
Yeah, it also makes sense because both PlayStation and Xbox are coming to the end of their life cycles,
right? And have announced, upcoming console. Like, we know that they're incoming. It's still probably like a year plus away. But as soon as you know the next thing's out, it makes it a little less exciting to buy the old thing.
In an interview with The Guardian, Power Stone series producer Takashi Tezuka reminisced about the series. The interview ended with Tezuka mentioning that he thought Power Stone would be a great fit for Switch.
Okay, so first of all, this is a really good interview about Power Stone and just about Capcom developing in the early days of the Dreamcast.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about what Power Stone is?
Yes, so I'm a big Power Stone fan. It is a one-on-one fighting game in sort of the tradition of Capcom fighting games, except that it does a lot to sort of simplify fighting. Like you have 2 attack buttons. There's a punch and a kick, and then also like a pick up or like grab button, and then a jump button. And then otherwise you are running around a sort of like 3D arena, small 3D arena, and really interacting with the environment. So there will be like posts in some rooms, and some characters can grab onto them and like climb up and down. The larger characters can like lift the posts out of the ground and swing them. Weapons and items appear throughout the stage, and you can use them against each other. And they can be very powerful, but they get used up very quickly.
Presumably, there are power stones.
There are also power stones, so that this is the way to like have a super move kind of. So there are these 3 gems that appear sort of at random. You start with 1. Each player starts with 1, and then you can like knock them out of each other. Kind of like the items that you can collect in Smash, like when you're building up like the gun or whatever. And when you get all 3, then you transform into the like a Super Saiyan version of yourself, and at which point all of your moves have changed to very powerful, like shooting blasts of energy or fireballs or whatever. And the game is just super fun. It's got like a tight cast of like maybe a dozen characters, and they're all sort of like 1920s like World War I-ish, like steampunk, gentleman adventurer sort of stuff. Like it's very cool. It has such a specific like look and sound, and nothing really plays like it. They made 2 of these games on Dreamcast, Power Stone and Power Stone 2. And the first one is a stone cold classic, and the second one's pretty good too. But they've only ever been re-released once on Vita. And I would love to see these games, either a new one or even just the first one again on. You could put Power Stone 1 on Switch and charge me $40. I would buy it. I love the game to death. But if Tezuka is saying that he wants to make a new one on Switch, my vote is gimme.
So I've never played Power Stone before. The first time it came to my to my attention was, do you remember probably in maybe like around 10 years ago, like 2009, 2010-ish.
Okay.
There was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles computer animated movie called TMNT.
Yeah.
And they released a licensed fighting game on Wii.
Yeah, TMNT Smash Up.
Right.
Yep.
And I just remember the discussion around that game in previews on sites like 1UP and other sites like that. We're talking about how it's kind of Power Stone-esque.
That's so weird because it is way more Smash Brothers-esque. The thing that like Power Stone does have a little bit of like the DNA of Smash, and that it's more chaotic, and that like you're going for like items and stuff in a fighting game. But it really is its own beast. Like the ability to run around in 3D space and like picking up chairs and throwing them at each other, that there are like tables that some of your characters can dive under, and the bigger characters just like pick them up and throw them. The game's so good. It is one of the 3 Dreamcast games that I still own, and will actually still play. I love it. I love that game.
Bubble Bobble 4 Friends, a 4-player simultaneous Bubble Bobble game, was announced for Switch. It's coming out in November in Europe and early 2020 for North America.
So Bubble Bobble, I like Bubble Bobble. How do you feel about Bubble Bobble?
I like Bubble Bobble. I like saying Bubble Bobble.
It's fun to
I
say
like
Bubble Bobble.
the music from Bubble Bobble.
Oh my gosh, it just plays on repeat. No, let's not think of it, because if we think of it, we won't be able to exercise it from our brains.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, so this is another one where I say, give it to me. I want to play Bubble Bobble 4 Friends.
Does 4-person Bubble Bobble exist right now?
I don't believe that it does. But it could. It's 2019. Lots of things exist.
I guess I should say that my only experience with Bubble Bobble is 2-person Bubble Bobble.
As is mine. And 1-person Bubble Bobble, but that's a sad state of affairs, and let's dwell on it no further.
Finally, and definitely most importantly,
yes,
the next Tetris Maximus Cup has been announced for this coming weekend, August 23rd through 25th. At the moment, start times have only been confirmed for Europe, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty much the same as it always is.
Yeah, and also because these things have always been worldwide events, so like it seems like they're throwing the party, and we're invited, but we haven't gotten an invitation. You know what I mean? I'm hoping it got lost in the mail. That's my point.
There are a few precious days left. We should all be banking on
a
Tetris Maximus Cup happening this weekend, because if you play and you get 100 points, you win a special Fire Emblem Three Houses theme. This is very important to me.
This is very important and awesome. It means that also while you are playing in the Tetris Maximus Cup, whether you have scored 1,000,000 points or 0 points, you will be using the Fire Emblem Three Houses theme. Look, I like that Splatoon theme. I like that classic Game Boy theme. I just want this. I want this one.
You know, the way they're doing it is so smart, because first there was vanilla Tetris 99.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then they released the Game Boy skin.
Yes.
Also great.
I cried.
And then they one-upped that with the Splatoon 2 skin, and you're like, how is it going to get any better than this?
And the Splatoon 2 skin is great. There's music in there. There's sound effects that are hilarious. It's wonderful.
I'll tell you how they one-up it.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem Three Houses. What are they going to do to beat Fire Emblem Three Houses? I can't wait to find out.
Luigi's Mansion.
Spooky.
Oh. Link's Awakening.
Love it. That'd be so cute.
It would be so cute.
Oh, man. I love, Tetris 99 just keeps on giving.
All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. And again, we are going to talk about the Indie World Showcase on Thursday. We know that was another thing that happened this week. We're just going to talk about it on Thursday because there's a lot to talk about there. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcast. You can also share it on Facebook or Twitter. It doesn't... We like that.
Cost you anything?
It doesn't cost... Look, it doesn't cost you a thing, so just do it. I don't know why I started with it doesn't.
It doesn't hurt the environment.
No, I mean, it might a little bit because you're using electricity and then you got to charge your phone afterwards.
But if you told somebody in person,
tell someone in person.
Presuming you didn't meet up with them by texting them.
Right, or by driving anywhere. Right. So you almost certainly did. And that you're not like doing it over a meal.
Don't dwell on the environmental impact of recommending our show.
Please just recommend the show. You can follow us on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. And you can go to our Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, maybe recommend us and then plant a tree. And thanks for listening.
Hey, podcast fans, great news. You got a new podcast to listen to every Tuesday. This is Fantasy Flicks League. I'm Ryan Meharry.
I'm Mike McClendon.
I'm Amy Ruffle.
And we're the commissioners and hosts of the Fantasy Flicks League podcast, a podcast all about the box office. We got flops, we got bombs, we give unsolicited updates on the host's love lives, a reoccurring character who loves Deadpool no matter what his parents say.
I'm gonna see it, Mom. Screw you.
With an A-list guest lineup and the movie news you need to decide what to see and what to skip, the Fantasy Flicks League podcast drops every Tuesday morning. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Campfire.